Tessa and the Starry Pond. Tessa was a curious 9-year-old girl who lived in a small village at the edge of a great forest, and each night she loved to look at the sky and count the stars while her grandmother told her old tales of star magic and lost places in the woods. So one clear evening after dinner she slipped on her blue cloak, took her lantern, and decided to find the secret starry pond that her grandmother had mentioned many times. And Tessa quietly left the cottage, closed the wooden door behind her, and stepped onto the soft grass under a sky full of shining points of light, and she walked along the narrow path that led into the forest while the lantern made warm circles of light on the ground and the trees made gentle shadows. And she felt a mixture of excitement and a little fear in her heart because she had never walked so far alone, but she remembered her grandmother's words that courage comes from kindness, so she held her hands together and whispered a promise to help anyone in need. And as she walked deeper she heard soft rustles of leaves and the song of a distant owl, and soon she reached a small clearing where a silver deer stood alone with its eyes shining like stars, and the deer bowed its head and seemed to welcome Tessa. So Tessa took a small piece of bread from her pocket, broke it into tiny bits, and offered them to the deer, and when the deer ate the bread it spoke in a clear, gentle voice that only kind listeners could hear, saying, "Thank you, child. I am Starry, the guardian of the forest, and I will help you find the starry pond if you help me first." And Tessa asked, "How can I help you?" And Starry lowered its soft voice to explain that the river of moonlight that feeds the pond had a small log blocking its flow at the old bridge, so the pond was slowly losing its glow, and if the pond lost its glow the magic of the forest would fade. So Tessa nodded and Starry led her to the bridge, a wooden structure over a small stream that reflected the moonlight like liquid silver. And when Tessa came close she saw a heavy log caught between the stones pushing the water and making it slow, and she tried to push the log with her arms but the log was too thick and sturdy. Yet Tessa did not give up, so she looked around and found a long branch, used her cloak to wrap the end for a better grip, and pulled with all her strength while Starry pushed gently with its antlers and the water carried some of the weight, and after a few moments the log shifted and loosened. Then it rolled away and floated downstream until it passed under a fallen branch and rested near a pool, and the moonlight river began to flow freely again with soft rushing sounds that made Tessa smile and Starry's eyes glow with gratitude. Then Starry bowed its head and said, "You have saved the river. Now follow me to the starry pond." And Tessa felt warm and proud, and she followed Starry along a winding path that climbed gently through the tall pines and down a slope covered in soft moss where tiny mushrooms grew in rings, and the lantern's glow danced on the tree trunks like friendly eyes watching them, and they walked until they reached a rock ledge where Tessa could look down on a hidden valley, and there below lay the secret starry pond with water as smooth as glass reflecting the vast sky above and dotted with floating lights that flickered like small stars on the water's surface. And the pond was surrounded by tall grass and gentle reeds that swayed in a silent breeze, and Tessa gasped at the sight because it was more beautiful than any story she had heard, and Starry whispered, "This pond holds the light of the stars when the sky is dark. Tonight it is full once more. Will you make a promise for the forest?" And Tessa knelt beside the pond, touched the cool water with her finger, and whispered, "I promise to protect the forest, to care for its rivers, trees, and animals, and to always help where I can." And as she spoke the pond's floating lights began to glow brighter and one by one they soared gently into the sky, returning to their places among the clouds, and the water remained clear and bright under the moonlight, and a soft melody rose from the reeds like a lullaby thanking her, and Starry bowed its head again and said, "The forest magic is safe because of you." Then Tessa looked at the sky, saw a new star shining brighter than the rest in the place where the lights had risen. And she knew the forest had given her its own star as a sign of its friendship, and she felt happy and calm inside, and Starry led her back along the path to the old bridge where they first met, and Tessa thanked Starry for its help and guidance, and Starry touched her shoulder with its soft nose before running back into the depths of the forest, leaving Tessa alone with only the soft sounds of the night. Then Tessa walked back home under the shining moon and the new star in the sky, and she reached her cottage as the first light of dawn began to color the sky with pink and gold, and her grandmother was waiting on the porch with a warm hug and a cup of tea and asked, "Did you find the pond?" And Tessa smiled, told her grandmother every detail of her adventure with the silver deer and the glowing pond, and showed her the small star-shaped stone she found beside the water that glowed softly in her hand and warmed her palm. And her grandmother said, "This is the forest's gift to you, dear child." And Tessa placed the stone on her bedside table and snuggled into her blankets, thinking of the forest and the guardian deer and the secret starry pond, and she drifted to sleep with dreams of silver water under a sky full of sparkling stars, knowing that she had done something kind and brave for the forest, and that every night she could look at the sky and remember her promise and the magic she helped save.